Hello everyone and welcome to the Priceless Podcast. My name is Michael Sechen and I'm your podcast host. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Please subscribe to this podcast, like it, you can comment, and of course you can share with anyone you think would be interested in watching this podcast. So today I have two guests and I'm really excited because this is a special podcast and my guests come from Norway and their names are Julie Haas and Hilde Rostad.
We're really honored to be on the podcast. I've been watching several of these and I think it's wonderful, so it feels like a big honor.
And I'm Julie and I'm feeling a little nervous about this.
So we have cookies ready for Julie if she feels uncomfortable.
I identify as lesbian. I ride shotgun for Hilde, and I think I'm still Hilde's loved one.
Well, you are, and I identify as a lesbian, and I am also a mountain person.
I grew up in the Lutheran Church in the U.S. I think my faith is evolving as I was involved in conservative things when I was at university and learned that I feel more comfortable in more liberal congregations.
Well, I never went to church much when I grew up. My parents had a very deep faith and belonged to the Norwegian Lutheran Church. So church has never been my home, but there has been Christian communities that I have belonged to. I feel that maybe my faith is becoming more and more childlike as I evolve. If you ask me, say two words about sexuality, it would be wonder and trauma.
And I guess I would say missed opportunities. And I think that's best illustrated when I was talking to my mom when I was 35. She said, "So, Julie, when did you realize that you were gay?" And I said, 25, 26. And she said, "No. I knew when you were 16. And I was like, "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" And she just looked at me and said, "Well, I just don't think you could have handled it."
We met in March 1983. So in March 2023, it'll be 40 years.
For Hilde, it was love at first sight. It took me a little bit longer. We met in Switzerland.
I still remember the first moment because I had just arrived and I stood outside the building and this little car drove up and this stunning woman with sun-bleached hair and ski outfit walked out of the car, and I stood there and was like, wow. And I can still describe every piece of clothing she had on, at least the ones that were visible. Julie was working there and I maneuvered my way in to be offered a 2 months volunteer contract, so we worked together. We skied together. I think that was the first connecting point, really, that we did downhill skiing together. Then at the end of these 2 months, I was going to go back to Norway and Julie was going to go back to the States for some vacation. And I wanted to have Julie tell me that, yeah, we are in love with each other before she left. We left each other. So I tried kind of saying carefully, isn't this wonderful? And we are more than friends, aren't we? And Julie said, yeah, it's been really nice. But I do this with all my friends. More than 10 years later, we're doing a civil union. We discussed what date to put in our rings. In the end, we actually wrote always in our rings because we couldn't define it. And we decided that maybe it didn't have an exact beginning, and maybe hopefully it will not have an ending.
Since we met and since Hilde fell in love at first sight, we'll go with that.
Julie's mother was always 100% supportive and accepting. I too have a very close and good relationship to Julie's mom.
With my dad, it was don't ask, don't tell until it was our partnership time. I wanted to have my mom come for our civil union. And she said, I don't want to come alone. I need to ask your father if he would come too.
So Julie's mother isn't diplomatic. So she said, yeah, well, Julie is gay and she's getting married in August and she wants us to be there. And your dad said,
I need a week. I need some time to think about this.
So they came and it was wonderful. And then it's my parents, which was not so beautiful. I came out to them in 1985 and told that I was together with Julie, and they freaked out. They had been taught by the church that if you were gay and lived out being gay in a relationship, you went to hell. It was really painful, very stressful, and I didn't know how to handle that. My parents were so upset. So in the end, I did the most destructive thing I've ever done. I promised them that Julie and I would have a non-sexual relationship. 8 years of really traumatizing time for me. And also, of course, for Julie and us, because I had to close down the sexuality that I had finally discovered. And it wasn't until 1994 that I realized that this is so destructive that I'm going to be destroyed by this. And that I told them I can't keep that promise anymore. It ended well, but it was pure hell for about 8-9 years, and made my relationship to my parents really difficult, and it's taken a lot of years to heal that. I'm not really sure how we survived it. Maybe it's simply a miracle, but I would not recommend it. I should have said, I'm choosing Julie, I'm leaving. When you choose a relationship, it cannot let your parents or your family or the expectations have the power to have that kind of destructive power. That is my biggest regret ever, and I'm just so thankful that we survived it and that Julie still loved me.
One challenge we've had is where to live. In the 80s, when Hilde came to the United States, she had to actually answer the question.
Yeah, when the first time I came to visit Julie in Colorado, I had to have a tourist visa, and there were 3 questions at the end of it. The last question was, are you homosexual? It was impossible for us to find a country where we could live together. There was no same-sex marriage, therefore there was no granting of permissions to stay. Something that people probably doesn't think about now, that when we met, Julie lived in Switzerland and I lived in Norway. There were no emails, there were no Skype, there was no cell phones, there were no texts, there was only letter writing. I finally accepted that people could get a permission to stay year by year if they lived together, and then I included same-sex couples in that. And that's why we was like, in the end, this is the only country where we can live.
Yes, I mean, I had been working with my father in the States, and then I did my MBA in Oslo, and then I did my PhD in Manchester, and came back and started working at Statistics Norway.
Julie has this wonderful mix of being very intelligent and an absolutely goofy kid. And I think we have things that we really love to do together. And for me, it's so important to know that there is someone that loves me unconditionally. Please say that you feel the same.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to be able to laugh together.
But I also think that a lot of the times really felt like it's been the two of us against the world. That it's been a battle. And I guess we're both extremely stubborn, so that we're not been willing to give up on something really wonderful. We always know that there is a view at the top of the mountain, or when you cross the pass and you see the other side. It would be stupid or wrong to say that there hasn't been other women that and Julie have been attracted to through these years. But a life that didn't have Julie in it would be really, really upsetting.
Also, I think it's important that we've been able to recognize when life is getting difficult for the other person, that we're willing to be there in the way that they need to be if we can figure that out. that we recognize that the other person has times that require all of their energy, and we don't try to take additional energy away.
And to give each other the space when it's necessary without giving up. I think we couldn't have made this without really, really good friends that's been really supportive and just been there for us. So our friends, both the friends we have together and our separate friends, has been rocks when life has been rough. Maybe the most important thing for me is to know that there is somewhere where I am. We talk about safe space. Julie is my safest space. And someone who loves me no matter if I feel shitty or having a bad day or a bad week or a bad year. And someone to share the happinesses with. Well, she's far from perfect, but she's just right for me.
And it's just nice to also have someone to remember things with.
I don't think we ever take each other for granted because it's been a battle to be together and figure out how to do that.
We need to talk, we need to communicate, but it's also a question of how. And that's not always the same for each person. And we found that driving or walking is good places for us to talk.
I think both of us have learned that you need more than one person in your life, not necessarily as a million lovers, but I need other people and close friends that I can do things with that fulfill the needs that Julie actually cannot fulfill for me. You can't expect your partner to fulfill all your needs. You need to have other people in your life, and then you have to both accept that that is not a threat to the relationship.
I think it's also to have an open hand instead of always a closed hand around the person. A little bit of an open hand.
But that's also a process of learning to let go, and then maybe someone will stay with you. Maybe because we had to fight so hard to stay together and be together, not because we struggled with the relationship, but all these outside forces, that we really had to trust each other and be a team and belong together and trust that love, because otherwise we would have been ripped to pieces. So something that was really painful and really much of a struggle maybe also helped us feeling like it's us against the world, and then you build a lot of trust and a lot of strength together. I guess it's like when you have a map and you have a terrain, and the map and the terrain does not fit, the terrain is always right and the map is wrong. And I thought it was a very good way of saying life and the relationship and love, that's the real things. And if the rules don't fit that, then it's the rules or the map that's wrong.
It was really amazing talking to you two, and I'm so thankful with all of my heart that you were willing to share your story, partially your life stories, but also your love story. Thank you, dear viewers and listeners, for being with us today. As I said in the beginning, this podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Subscribe, like, comment, and share this podcast with your friends or people you might know. And of course, this podcast relies on donations. So if you want to support this podcast so I can continue making them, please do so by clicking one of the links in the podcast description. Hopefully in the future, I will have a separate conversation with Hilde about her story and her book. Until then, until the next time, I say bye to you, and bye Hilde and Julie, and thank you so much.
Thank you. It was nice talking with you. Thank you. Bye.